Okay, so today's video, I want to focus on society because I've been seeing a lot of discourse about if society is actually going to be top 1 now. Which, that just sounds crazy to say out loud. We're debating on if society is top 1. But it's actually looking like there is some serious evidence for it not being top 1, that some people are starting to now actually believe that, so I just want to go over my thoughts on the situation and explain why this is currently something that people are thinking about. Now we're going to be talking about Zoink's progress here, and I'm going to be splitting this video into 2 parts, okay? And that is because many people believe that Zoink is attempt lying and massively downplaying how many attempts he's actually spent on this level and how many hours he has, because as you know, he allegedly has 17 hours of pre-practice on Society before it even went on the servers, and this was on apparently a buffed version. So we're gonna go over 2 scenarios. We're gonna go over that he actually does only have 17 hours of pre-practice, and his attempts are legit. And then we're going to go over the second reason a bit later, going over what would happen if we believe that Zoink actually is lying about this and he's got way more practice on the level than we actually believe. So first off, let's actually just talk about this. Zoink just achieved another new best on Society. He had 67%, literally very recently, like yesterday. And then now he has 74%, which that is just so crazy to see. Like, he is pretty much done with the level. There really isn't that much here before he actually gets, the completion. And keep in mind, when Popoff got to around this part when he was playing Society, he beat it pretty shortly after. For comparison, he started streaming Society at the skill level on it that Popoff was at 2 weeks to 6 days ago. It's genuinely crazy how fast he's progressed. Now, we're going to talk about his 17 hours of pre-practice here, and that's why I kind of split this into 2 segments. But just to start off, I am not talking about the ethics of whether he should have had pre-practice on the level, because I know there is a huge debate right now on if Zoink should have had that leaked copy. Should he have came into this with pre-practice just to seem to downplay Popoff's achievement and maybe say that this is easier in Thinking Space 2, right? But that is the ethics side of things. I'm talking about, like, the facts. Is Society actually potentially not top 1? And if we think about this, I think that it probably is top 1 if these stats are true. Because, again, let's just think about this. Zoink has spent 17 hours of pre-practice on this. It's in all his streams at the bottom corner. He pretty much just admits it, right? So we know that bare minimum he's got 17 hours of pre-practice on this. Now, a lot of people are kind of seeing it as if those 17 hours don't exist. A lot of people are seeing Zoink as he just magically gained 17 hours worth of skill, and they're kind of glossing over the fact that, he still had to spend like 17 hours playing this level. So he is already over a week in on playing this realistically. Let's say he played like 2 hours a day or something. He's pretty much over a week on this. That is assuming that he only plays on stream. So it's not like he's doing this out of nowhere, right? Now, the reason that a lot of people are saying that he's probably attempt lying is that even if you take that into account, right, he is still doing this at a rate that is way, way, way faster than what Popoff was doing. Now, granted, Popoff is, verifying the level, right? There's going to be different pressure there. It's just not going to be, as easy. However, Popoff is kind of a weird thing to compare here, because Popoff is relative to Zoink, okay? You can argue if Zoink or Popoff is better. I'm sure that's going to be a debate in the comments. However, we have to admit that they're around similar skill levels, probably. But this is showing that Zoink is well above Popoff, which, from how they've been playing the game, it just wouldn't make sense if he is this, advanced, if he's this much better. And while that will lead on to part 2 of this video, we now just have to talk about, with these current percentages, is Society harder than Thinking Space 2? And like I said before, I think it is, okay? Because, 1, he still hasn't beaten the level yet, okay? He hasn't even gotten to the ending. Now, granted, Society is a very consistent level, but we still haven't seen Zoink become first victor, so we can't even speak about it that much. And also, when it comes to Thinking Space 2, this was nearly a year ago now. It's hard to believe just because we haven't really seen any victors on these levels, but Thinking Space 2 was beaten nearly a year ago, okay? Now, 365 days is a lot of time for Zoink to improve at a game, especially with the fact that this is his job, right? Playing top play is his career. So, of course, he's going to be playing a lot. He's going to gain a lot more skill in that year. It's not like he just quit playing after that. So, I do think that Society is probably still harder than Thinking Space 2, despite this, okay? However, I think this does make me feel like Society is easier than Heliopolis, and I've been saying that for a while now. Because Zoink started at a relatively similar time to when Popoff started playing Society, right? And even then, Zoink is nowhere close to beating Heliopolis by the time that Popoff actually completed Society. And if they're relative in skill, then that should add up, and it should mean that Heliopolis is probably a lot harder. And Popoff and Zoink have pretty similar skill sets, so I really don't think the fact that Heliopolis is an entirely different kind of level than Society would make much of a difference here. And again, the ethics here with Zoink lying about his attempt counts and stuff, or him having pre-practice or whatever, right? I'm not going to talk about that, because I'm saying this again, I'm repeating myself, because I know that so many people are going to bring that up in the comments, and fair enough, talk about it if you want, but please don't use this video as me, like, saying that I agree with Zoink, you know, doing the pre-practicing and stuff. This is literally just me looking at the facts and seeing whether I think, personally, that Society is either easier or harder than Thinking Space 2. I'll throw this in as well. This was a stream that Zoink was doing, and he got asked the question of if he thought that Society was top 1 or not, and his response to it was he genuinely just doesn't want to give his opinion on it because he feels like he's not in the position to give a valid take on it, and he told us to wait until someone like Trick or Nethermind gave the level a shot to actually get a, you know, good response to how difficult the level might be. We'll just play Society in the background a bit while I yap here, but we'll move on to the second thing here, and what if Zoink is actually lying about his attempt count, right? Because a lot of people are noticing, I've seen some Twitter posts like this one here, that like even for 17 hours of pre-practice, this just seems unheard of. I guarantee you Popoff has like over tripled the amount of time playing Society. 17 hours when it comes to a Geometry Dash top 1 level is nothing. Zoink probably has hundreds of hours on Thinking Space 2, or maybe he had like hundreds or something, okay? 17? And I'm using 17 and I'm comparing it to a completion because he's nearly beaten the level, right? Like, if he continues at this rate, you know, he's not going to be spending too much time or more on this. He's going to probably beat it in like 30 hours or 40 hours. That is nothing. That is absolutely nothing. It just doesn't make sense. So if he is lying about this, then that probably proves that Society is just as hard as Popoff is claiming it to be. Whether it's harder than stuff like Grief or Heliopolis is a bit more up for debate, but like, I just cannot see this being easier than Thinking Space 2. And this would be the nail in the coffin to Zoink's reputation when it comes to skill if he does say that this is easier than Thinking Space 2. He might have already said that, I don't know. I'm pretty sure that he hasn't made his opinion on it public yet. Maybe I'm wrong there. I'm not really tuning into his live streams. But, like, for example, he also thinks that Amethyst is easier than Thinking Space 2. And if you look at a lot of people's opinions on Amethyst, they all say that it is harder than Thinking Space 2, pretty much. Most people agree on that. A couple say that it is easier, but the majority actually, I believe, are saying it's harder now. And all these people that say that have left the demon list, actually. Their pages on the stats bureau are gone. I will be talking about that in a short, because again, I don't want another negative video, 2 negative videos in a row. However, yeah, I just think I wanted to yap about this a bit, because I've just been seeing a lot of discourse on it, and naturally, when we have a top 1 verified, and then the other top players start playing it, or I guess top player, it's really just a race between Popoff and Zoink. There's obviously going to be some debate on who's the better player, or if the level's actually top 1 or not. It's just kind of weird that we're seeing like a repeat here of Zoink maybe potentially downplaying a Popoff achievement that people are expecting to be harder than the other level, right? I do think we'll get more of an understanding on difficulty once we see Nethermind beat Thinking Space 2. He has 89% on it, right? He's super close to beating it, and I think once we get that opinion, it'll help us a lot. Because we've been seeing a lot of people give the difficulty on Amethyst, right? And a lot of those are saying that it is harder than Thinking Space 2. But if we could get a Thinking Space 2 fought, as in with someone who's actually beaten the level, then that's going to help a lot. From what I know, I think Nethermind does say that this is top 1, but I may be wrong. I may be wrong about that. But yeah, we just have to wait on the completion to see his full thoughts there. But again, it's also kind of hard because Nethermind also hasn't been Amethyst, so it's harder to judge with these kind of things. And we can't use the Russian players' opinions anymore because there's not a single Russian player in the top 50 on the stats viewer anymore, which again, I will go into that in a short. But yeah, I just wanted to yap about this kind of thing because I thought it was an interesting debate to be had. And you know, it is kind of weird how fast Zoink's improving. Like, it is a bit suspicious, I'm not gonna lie. As much as I'm someone who likes to stay neutral on these things, it is a bit suspicious, even for 17 hours of pre-practice. But, yeah. I don't really have much more to say. I'll see you when probably Zoink beats the level in like a day or two. But yeah, thanks for watching all the way through, and peace.